Michael also mentioned that, these folks get into office and kind of are happy with their title and don't really do the work of serving their communities. One of the ways they keep themselves in power is through redistricting, through gerrymandering. And this story is still in the news this week. We saw Texas passed their new gerrymandered maps, and California with Gavin Newsom's fighting back. Missouri just called a special section this week at Trump's behest to redraw their maps. Perhaps they'll get some ducks and unicorns and hippopotamuses and whatnot for their districts. But here in Indiana, we know that Trump has been pressuring our Republican lawmakers to call a special session and redraw Indiana's maps to maybe steal another congressional seat or two. So our Republican legislators went to Washington to kiss the ring this week, visiting Trump at the White House and getting an audience with Vice President J.D. Vance as well. So after the meeting, one staunch opponent of the redrawing, Seymour Republican and life of the party, Jim Lucas, said that his stance has softened. Go figure. Previously a hard no, Lucas said he isn't yet a yes, but he's worried about the paralyzing effect a Democratic House majority would have on President Trump's agenda.
How could that happen?
That paralyzing effect.
Seriously.
Can I say one thing? Yes. Okay. Please. So I called Byron last night because seriously, the boy is so wise. And he reminded me that Miss Houchin in 2021 helped with the redistricting and gerrymandering in Washington County. And I have a map. I was trying to grab it. I'll send it on at some point. But if you zoom in where Rosebud and Dog Trot and a few right here in Washington County, if you are on this one road, you are in the crosshairs of 3 state or 3 house districts. It's just ridiculous, right? And she helped do it. And then this is the thing, like, anybody who's believing anything that they say before they vote on anything, they're going to fall in line. The only people who are in administration right now in the Republican, I don't see any of them standing up for what I feel like they would actually believe in if they weren't afraid of losing their job. And for me, there's all of these people who ran for positions who didn't get it. And yet, it's the whole reason I started the coalition here. I knew that as the ways we serve our community were taken away, food bank, all of the kids, not making sentences, every community service that is being stripped away, defunded, those needs will be met by the humans in the community who will do their best to make sure that they help their other community members. And so I formed the coalition for that reason. So there was a space for those people to have a way to serve. And it used to be our churches. It used to be churches that would step up. We have a ton of Amish in our county. If one of them is sick or needs anything, the whole community of them comes together and helps them get through whatever it is, right? And I see that as a former evangelical Republican Christian. I see that in the others of us who have left that same mindset, and we're looking around saying, why aren't we doing this for, again, we're back to humanity. And so if anyone, people say they don't want to have political conversations. And then they also say, the price of eggs have gone up, or my mom can't get her Medicaid, or this might happen, or the food bank doesn't have whatever it needs, or I needed a grant and now the grant's gone. Those are political difficult conversations, and we need to draw people into them in a way that they realize it's not a scary conversation. I think a lot of people think that they're going to look stupid when they're talking about things. And they're afraid of having a conversation that really it's bringing people back to the front porch, to the front yard, into the living room, and having these conversations and being a community together and leading. Because in my community in Salem, Erin Houchin's office is right there. I could see it out the window if I wanted to. And she won't show up. And yet we've got people here. I've got extra potatoes and apples on the back porch right now that people brought over. Hey, I know somebody needed some food, and I'm going to leave it on the back porch over there so they can get it. Because when community comes together and you lead, you actually save and help your community. So, like, sorry,
yeah. Well, and this really that can open up a whole can of worms, and I guess whose responsibility is that? Republicans would say, well, yeah, the churches should be doing this, but obviously, a lot of times when churches do these things, they come with strings, and frankly, it's just government is going to get a much better deal by spreading these costs among the largest risk pool, which is the entire population. But so with the redistricting, because these things do reach, this stuff matters in people's regular lives, like you were saying, like these political machinations of the redistricting. They might not make not a lot of sense in theory. They're big concepts, but it matters when it comes down to your budget in your household at the end of the day, and these decisions matter in that way. So after this meeting in Washington, House Speaker Todd Houston, Senate Leader Rod Bray are still non-committal. Braun is still non-committal. Democrats waved goodbye to the Republicans on their way to kiss the ring at the Indianapolis airport, holding a press conference, saying "sayonara sellouts" on their messaging. There is that good messaging? What do we think, Ethan?
I mean, any and all like shame and embarrassment you can throw at the situation is warranted. I like sayonara sellouts. It's very Casablanca. Like, I'm here for it. I like calling them cowards. I really like the word coward. Nobody likes to be called a coward. And just being like, Erin Houchin's a great example. This is your map. This is your map. You've had a supermajority for 20 years. You have controlled every element of what ultimately gets put into law and what Hoosiers have to deal with. And so if you have spent 20 years with total control over what districting maps actually look like, and at the end of that, mid-decade, are like, we must take action to stop the takeover of the party we have squeezed to the margins while representing almost half of the state, you're a coward. And you're not just a coward, you're an autocrat who wants to push Hoosiers who disagree with you into spaces where you do not have to listen to them, where you have stripped their power and silenced them. And anybody that is doing that is a coward and an autocrat. And I would like a little bit of direct language with our sellouts.
Yeah, well, let's talk about one of these cowards and autocrats. But first, a profile in courage. There was one Republican state senator that did stand up. He says, this is Greg Walker from Columbus, says, our maps are only 4 years old. They have undergone considerable public scrutiny and review. There is no justification for holding a special session to change our districts in mid-census. If Texas and California want to take the cynical step of redistricting their seats, so be it. But Hoosier lawmakers should be leaders in resisting this hypocrisy, not followers of this effort promoted by outsiders, not Hoosiers. I say, well done, Senator Walker. for your courage in standing up. It should be noted that Walker is not running for re-election next year, so he's free to do it. Now, somebody.
We must praise the good, right?
Yes.
We need to know. This is they make it us versus them. We aren't the ones saying it's us versus them necessarily, right? And I do want to say one thing. I was in a Zoom call earlier this week, and it was brought up because, I live in a rural area, and this press conference for the sayonara, whatever, was in Indy. And in Indy, they're a little bit farther ahead than we are in what terminology you should use and should not use. And in this podcast or Zoom call, it came up that it throws our Asian population under the bus a little by using sayonara. I did not know that was a negative.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to speak to that a little bit because as much as I want to get my verbiage correct in whatever conversation I'm in, because we are all learning, and here we're back to grace. If we have any grace and mercy with each other, hearing in this call that is something that is now offensive or could be viewed offensive, that's not intentional, I don't believe, and it's something that I didn't even know was part of a conversation. So I wanted, since my friend Ethan is running for office and he said, I like sayonara, la, la, la. I was like, I will share this little tidbit because there's things that we don't know. And until you learn about it, it's kind of like, well, I didn't need to stick my foot in my mouth, but I always stick my foot in my mouth. So
I'm professional. Yeah.
I'm good at that.
I live with my foot in my mouth. Somebody who should try sticking their foot in their mouth more, because maybe they wouldn't say such dumb things, is State Rep Andrew Ireland, who says the GOP has a constitutional right to redistrict, saying in an interview with NPR's Steve Inskeep, another Hoosier, by the way, that, quote, I think there's a strategic disadvantage at the national level for Republicans in Congress because of partisan gerrymandering in other states like our neighbor Illinois. Right now, the leader of our party, I think, recognized that issue, and we can sit on our laurels and say that we have this map that the Princeton Election Lab, for example, rates as one of the least gerrymandered in the country. Now, I will step in here and point out that in Indiana's congressional maps and our state house maps have been ridiculously gerrymandered since at least 2011. So this is multiple cycles now. And that Republicans are not at a disadvantage at the national level because of gerrymandering, but in fact have 11 states that are gerrymandered to hell, including Indiana, including Texas, including Missouri, where they're going to try to gerrymander it further, and others, whereas Democrats have like 4. So facts just do not comport there, Representative Ireland. He further says that because, Indiana is like a 60-40 state, that they should have the right to have all of the seats, and that Republicans are more representative of the average Hoosier. Let's see. Michael, thoughts?
Well, it's not what we see, in the voting. So by pointing out whether it's 60-40 or something closer to 50-50, but then how we're represented, he's pointing out that it is gerrymandered by using the data, right? Because we don't have even 60-40 representation in our chambers. So he's kind of making the case for us. This past week,
but doesn't realize while he's doing it that he's doing that.
No,
he says it very confidently, right?
And, earlier this, I guess it was the end of last week, I went up to one of our Secretary of State meetings where they're talking about changing voting centers versus polling locations, blah, blah, blah. They had a great presentation, lots of data, lots of science going on. And
Woke.
No, it was their science, their stuff they're presenting. And so my question was, why would we use this scientific data when you would not consider scientific data for COVID or global warming, climate change? And like the room just went, woo. Who's this guy? It was kind of funny because they saved my question for last and kind of made it like our last question of the day. Michael Potter's like, I'm wearing a Blythe Potter for Secretary of State shirt. It's his representatives running the thing. Like, I thought they were just going to leave me out. But
hey, that's a duck guy.
Yeah. What's a duck guy asking science questions for?
That's not what he's supposed to do.
He's just he's supposed to just quack and move on. It's like everything, it's time to go to work, the humanity. My opponent went to Washington. He's in Washington having these meetings while online with his local community, not just our district, but the people that live closest to his precinct, are complaining that they have no, there was a plan for them to get rural broadband, and it was dropped, and the city council dumped it. And again, all the things we've talked about, it's not a state rep's job to approve broadband for the local community, but as a leader in the Republican Party, as a leader for then the community, my dog is very upset about this.
Here.
He could be. He could rip up votes for this broadband and make it, and go through and campaign through the community and through that county to say, hey, Republicans, party members of which I lead. Not only is he in the House, which is kind of a leader, if there is a hierarchy from, state to county to, precinct. But then there's also, he is now the director of the Indiana Republican Party. I don't know what that title means. It's different than the chair, but again, he has assumed a title, but doesn't want to do the work of encouraging his community to do things that were put in place by Republican politicians. Like he probably voted at some point to approve the funding to have our rural communities get broadband. And when it's critical and that vote is on the table for the community, he's in Washington talking to Donald Trump or JD Vance.
Well, you must bring.
Yeah. Maybe he can help his constituents get hooked up with Starlink so they can pay you.
Yeah.
Starlink will